Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Welcome to another PMP exam preparation Q&A session. Our today's topic is not from a single section. We will be covering 100% of the course content. Means question in today's session would be from different topics from the entire course content. So from now onwards, we will be having mixed questions, right? So let me just share my screen and then we will start. Okay, right. Let's start question number 1. All right. So, Vivek, could you please explain your answers?
Yes, sure. So project manager, he who's the manages the project constraints, oversees the project execution, who is responsible. So and communicates with the stakeholders to keep the project on track. So uh, first is F, sponsor who actually provides the necessary resources and support the project and resources alignment. So second is C,
Okay.
customer is who actually reviews and accepts the deliverables, provides feedback, and ensures the product meets the necessary needs and expectations. So customer is E, and Scrum Master is who is facilitates the daily stand-up meetings and removes the impediments, ensures team follows. So for Scrum Master, it's A. Development team is who works collaboratively and delivers the product increment, ensuring the quality and rendering. So it's D, and the product owner is B, that who defines the project vision and ensures team delivers value.
All right. Thank you. Anyone who has a different opinion than what Vivek has mentioned? So, according to Vivek, project manager one is F. So, project manager manages project constraints, oversees project execution, and communication with stakeholders to keep the project on track. So, this is project manager's job. Sponsor. Sponsor provides the necessary resources and support. That is the job of project sponsor. Customer reviews and accepts deliverables, provides feedback, and ensures the product meets their needs and expectations. Sorry. Next is Scrum Master. Scrum Master facilitates daily stand-up meetings, removes impediments, and ensures the team follows agile practices. Development team, they work collaboratively to deliver the product increments, ensuring quality and adhering to technical standards. And the last one, product owner. Product owner defines the project vision and ensures the team delivers value to stakeholders. I hope it is clear to everybody. So I can see F, C, E, A, D, B. So most of you have answered correctly. Great. Let's review the answer, then we'll move to next question. All right, I hope it is clear. Next question. All right. Alan, you have chosen option C.
Yeah. So, um, from my understanding, this is a risk that was assumed, but but in the moment that we assumed that was from 0.56, 4.5, the maximum, we didn't expect to increase till 7. So in this point, we need to update the risk assessment, and then we need to raise our hand.
All right. So Alan is saying since it's a risk because it was assumed. So now there are some changes to the risk. So we should review the risk assessment and update required contingency reserves. Am I right, Alan?
Yeah, correct.
All right. Thank you. Jayashri, you have chosen option C.
I think contingency reserves are provided for any, that is, in this case, inflation has impacted due to which the uh, cost or the annual economic report is increasing, the cost is increasing by 2.5% than the original prediction of 4.5%. So this contingency reserve can be utilized for that increase in the cost as reflected in the annual economic report.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So who would like to talk about what is a risk? So risk is any uncertain event. So do you see any risk in this situation? Anyone, please? Where is the risk? Where is uncertainty? Anyone, please? On which basis you think that risk is being discussed, or which risk is being discussed here?
Inflation is the risk which we could see here.
Inflation is the risk. It says you're managing an infrastructure project and the estimate has been developed and approved. During execution, a new annual economic report reveals that inflation has increased from the assumed 4.5% to 7% this year. So you assumed at the start of the project, like annual inflation would be 4.5%, and based on this, you develop your estimate. This is not a risk. This is called an assumption. So there is a difference between risk and assumption. You understand, everybody? You're
Okay.
assuming like inflation would be 4.5%. So your assumption gets invalid. So it's not a risk. Risk is that you are uncertain about. You don't know what would be the inflation. That is a risk. You understand? But here you are assuming that inflation would be 4.5%. So this is an assumption. So this is not a risk. And secondly, it has occurred. So if something has occurred, there is no need to update contingency reserves. You understand? Contingency reserves are for uncertainty. Contingency reserves are for future events. So here, the event has already happened. You got the information that inflation has already increased from 4.5% to 7%. So it's past, it's not future. So if it is past, it has nothing to do with risk. And secondly, I told you, it's something relevant to assumption, not risk. So ask for additional funds to cover the cost of inflation. We do not directly ask for the additional funds. We do the analysis. We try to understand the thing. Update the basis of estimate to justify the additional funding requirement. Now, this looks a good option. Review the risk assessment. I have already talked about it. Risk has nothing to do with it. Convene a team meeting to discuss the reasons behind increased inflation. That's not PM's job. It's not PM's responsibility to control inflation, right? Yes, you can talk about effects of inflation, but not the causes of inflation. Correct answer is option B, update the basis of estimate. And what is basis of estimate? That assumption. So now you will say, okay, initially we assumed inflation would be 4.5%, and that's why we asked for, let's suppose, whatever budget you asked for, $1,000, let's suppose. Now you say inflation is 7.5%, and now we need 1,200. So update the basis of estimate to justify the additional funding requirement. Is it clear, everybody? You understand? If you have any comment, confusion, feel free to ask. So correct answer is option B. Let's read the explanation. So I hope you're clear about the difference between risk, assumption, and issue. These three are different things, right? Okay. Next question. Okay. Manmeet, you have chosen option C.
The only reason why I picked option C because there was a deficiency and customer instructed to remove it. And upon my review, I realized this component was not a part of this. That was not mentioned in the management plan, right? So it's to me, it's like a confusing thing. But in the end, I got it clear from the review that okay, it was never a part of a quality management plan. So to me, the first step would be informing the sponsor about it and inform him that there's no mention of this component and please suggest, like ask for the further instructions about it.
All right. So what sort of instruction you're looking for? So what's happening in this question is you have a project scope, and one of the components, when you perform quality testing, it revealed that that component does not qualify the quality criteria, right? Or is not as per the quality criteria. So there is quality compliance issue. So you check quality management plan. However, in quality management plan, there is no plan or mention of this component. Now, is it relevant to customer, or customer is responsible for this?
No.
Customer has nothing to do with it. Customer is not concerned with it, whether you have added in quality management plan or whether you have developed quality management plan. Customer is interested in getting a defect-free product. So you are delivering something defective, right? So informing the sponsor that, the component does not qualify the quality criteria because it is not part of our quality management plan. So please tell us what we should do next. What do you think, Manmeet, about this? You're on mute.
Yeah, no, I was thinking actually. Um,
So it's our internal problem, right? So inform
yeah,
the sponsor that the quality management plan has no mention of this component. So we are accepting our mistake, right? And at the same time, we are seeking their instructions. And the customer has nothing to do with it, right? It's our responsibility to ensure quality. So C can't be the right answer, right? It's not a proactive approach. It's more like pushing the responsibility on customers' shoulders. So C is not correct answer. Manmeet, makes sense or not? You understand why it's not correct?
yeah, definitely makes sense.
All right. So correct answer is review the technical specification of the component with the customer and agree on requirements. Why? So there is a problem with the component, and because of that problem, customer has instructed you to remove that component because it's a defective component. So what you need to do, rather than directly jumping and issuing a change request to just remove that component, you try to understand the reason, like why customer is trying to do that. So the problem is that quality management plan does not include technical specification or acceptance criteria. So you need to review the technical specification with the customer and agree on requirements, right? Once you agree, then you would be following all the processes, quality processes, and delivering a defect-free product. Inform the sponsor, we have already talked about. Since component testing is not part of the plan, continue with development, but keep the no. If you have delivered or if the product is defective, you should do something, right? So D is also incorrect. This is also incorrect. B is correct answer. Manmeet, you want to say something?
Yes, the only reason why I did not pick the B because of the last part that says agree on the requirements. I thought because the customer has already mentioned to remove it, then what is the point of going for the technical specifications and agreeing on the requirements?
What's the reason behind customer's request? So it's not like that a component is no more required because customer needs have changed. So it says you're developing a product and quality tests revealed a deficiency in one of the component. So the reason is that deficiency, you need to address that. You understand, Manmeet?
Yeah, now I understand. Yeah. So it's a deficiency problem that we need to
Yes,
fix. That's why we need to go and agree on the requirements. Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. So correct answer is option B. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Jashri, you have chosen option B.
Yes, Amar. So here it is since the strategic objectives are, it is getting changed due to a change in the strategic objectives. The customer is no longer requiring the product. and has sent you a formal letter. So in this scenario, I feel that B is the better option, assessing the financial viability of the project and suggest alternatives. So assessing the financial viability meaning you are looking at the actual reason why the customer is no longer needing the product, and what is the change in strategic objectives that has impacted this decision of the customer. And that aspect is being looked at, and you are suggesting alternatives also, which is directly interacting with the customer and suggesting alternatives also a suggested option in general.
All right. But Jayashri, it's clearly written due to change in strategic objectives. So customer strategic objectives have changed. So first the intention was something else, now the intention is different. So it's clearly stated due to change in strategic objectives, customer no longer needs the product and has sent you a formal letter for project termination. They're saying our strategic objectives have changed, right? So
Okay.
we don't need this project anymore. So please start termination. So it's clearly written. So there is no point of assessing the financial viability. If the question says the customer is concerned about financial viability or economic benefits of the project, so due to fear, they have sent you a letter for termination to, cut cost, then option B makes sense. You can conduct an analysis and help customer understand the financial viability and suggest some alternatives. But the question doesn't talk about financial viability at all. Question says customer strategic objectives have changed. So, for example, first strategic objective was, let's suppose, technological revolution, right? And now strategic objective is something else, cutting cost, right? Or focusing on capacity building of workforce. Now, since strategic objective has changed, even the previous decision make economic sense, we won't be doing that because strategic objective and direction, they have changed. So financial viability wouldn't make any sense here. Jayashri, you understand that?
Yes, yes, I understand.
So B is not correct answer. Okay. Alan, you have chosen option A.
Yes, in this case, we have a formal letter that confirms that everything is done. So from my understanding is, okay, we have the formal, so now we need to understand and we need to feel our lesson learned to know why this project is not needed anymore. And for following projects, we say, okay, this is no longer because we have this evidence. So that's how I understand the answer.
All right. So convening a lessons learned meeting is done as part of administrative closure. So it's part of the project closure process. So remember, whenever you want to initiate the closure process, even if you have received a formal request from the client, you need an approval from your sponsor because sponsor is ultimately authorized to make decision about project closure, about project initiation, about authorizing resources, about termination, about anything relevant to the project. So before you initiate the termination process, you need to seek approval from the sponsor. So in that context, option A is not correct because you are directly jumping to project closure without seeking or informing your sponsor because sponsor has ultimate authority. So if you really want to close the project, then you should first do D, right? Instead of A. So A and B are not correct answers. I'll take one more comment. Lala, you have chosen option C. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, I was actually between C and D, but I now
After my explanation or before?
No, believe me, before that event. So I know that A and B wasn't making sense because we already got an approval to terminate the project. But then I thought maybe we should look at what is the exit criteria. But in this case, when we have a formal approval, we're not going to be going through the exit criteria, right? We just need a first approval from the sponsor, and then we're gonna, do the project closure forms and stuff.
Absolutely. When you have received a formal termination request, exit criteria now it's irrelevant here, right? So directly we will be jumping to seeking formal project closure approval from the project sponsor. So correct answer is option D. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Vivek, you have chosen option D.
Yes, Amar. So I was trying to eliminate the options. So looking at the option A, we convene, but what if even we explain the situation, there is no solution to that. And even after the compensating the vendor directly is something not feasible, like it's cost impact to the project. And even halting the project is also like kind of a cost impact to the project. So better option is to collaborate with the vendor and find out the like middle option and agree on the new terms and contract modifications.
All right. What's wrong with option C, Vivek?
So if we temporarily halt the project, then the other activities may impact, not only because of this activity, but there are some other activities also going on. Halting the project may impact the other activities, and that also cost to the project.
All right, thank you. But okay, Vivek, in option A, don't you think like it's good to ensure transparency? Like you are having a face-to-face meeting or a meeting with the vendor to explain the situation for
Ye-
better understanding?
Yes, but actually, with only convincing or like only keeping the transparency, the major like objective is not getting solved. What?
Right, right, got it. So you're saying yes, it leads to transparency, but that's not the ultimate objective. It doesn't
Mm,
solve the problem. Okay,
yes.
thank you. Okay, Manmeet, you have chosen option A.
Um, Option A tells me, just like you said, transparency. And I actually learned from your lesson so far that vendors are also the team, part of project team, right? So we need to go along with them as a servant leader partnership with them. So A option gives me a transparency, and I will be able to explain that something is going on, and that's why we are having delays, and so that he would be informed, he would be acknowledged of the he can see what's happening at my end. B, C, D, B and C, I was never go with those options. D was, if on the contract modifications, that's something, it's a big picture. The first step would be obviously talking, conveying the message like this is happening, and that's it.
All right, thank you. So we also learned a concept that is called empathy, Manmeet, in the course, if you recall. So let's try to be empathetic. Suppose you are the vendor and I am the client. Which option you would be choosing if you are a vendor? What would you prefer?
Yes, I will be seeing delays and financial loss. I will be a little upset, and I'll be maybe shooting emails and messages, or maybe calling and asking for the explanation. I won't be that nice when it comes to empathy scenario, but yeah, I will be impatient and asking for reasons and questions. So many questions to be answered, I guess,
So which
as a
option
vendor.
would be choosing as a vendor? Which one?
As a vendor, if I see between B and D.
Between B and D. Okay, if you
Mhm.
have to pick one between B and D, then what?
B, you
I
can
would go
get
with D.
compensated.
Okay, Lela, go ahead. Thank you, Manmeet. Lela, go ahead.
I think you have to get it compensated, right? So I think
Yeah, absolutely. So we maintain the principle of fairness in project management. So one of the values in PMI Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct is fairness. So I think Vivek mentioned it has a cost impact, option B. Yes, it has a cost impact, but it's based on principle of fairness. If due to unforeseen reasons on your part have led to financial losses to the vendor, you should compensate the vendor. Does it make sense or not? Is it fair or not? Or you should not do this because it has some cost impact for your product. Even it has cost impact for your product, you should be fair. If something is done at your end and it is impacting other parties, it's your job to maintain fairness and do not do any sort of biasness towards any other entity. So compensating the vendor as per the contract and agree on a way forward, this actually solves the problem. All other options, they do not solve the problem. So option A, convening a meeting with the vendor to explain the situation. Okay, so what? You have explained it, then what? Right? So option A does not solve the problem. Option C, temporarily halt the project and wait for access to the site. So you're further deteriorating the situation. Previously, there are financial losses to the vendor. So rather than solving that, you are, you know, enhancing the loss or you are exaggerating the situation. Option D, collaborate with the vendor and agree on contract modification to reflect changes. Yes, it makes sense, but what sort of contract modification? It's a generic option, right? That you can do. So you're not addressing that financial loss here. Okay, you are agreeing on modifying the contract. So you modify contract if something is wrong with the contract. So nothing is wrong in the contract here. Nothing is missing in the contract here. Option B says compensate the vendor as per the contract. So look into the contract and see what contract says. According to the contract, compensate the vendor and agree on a way forward, whatever it could be. It could be halting the project. It could be modification to the contract. It could be offering more remuneration to the contractor, right? So there could be multiple options. So correct answer is option B. All other options are incorrect. So we will be compensating the vendor and sorry. Okay, so we will be compensating the vendor and agree on a way forward, right? So correct answer is option B. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Vivek, you have chosen option D.
Yes, as it mentions, it's following agile methodology, and with agile methodology, there is a concept of MVP. So, by looking at the situation, it's best option to divide the project into different MVPs and get the like get the value from the first MVP or first phase of the project by installing the changes as soon as into the production, and then keep working on the changing requirements in the next phase of the project. So that's how we are satisfying both, we are satisfying objective for changing requirements, and we are also delivering the value also.
Yeah, you're delivering the value, but how does it address the problem in the question? What's the problem in the question? The
So-
problem in the question is that you have committed an inaccurate estimate, right? So it says you have quoted a price to the customer and the contract has been signed. So you have agreed on something, right? You have signed a contract. And during execution using agile methodology, you realize the initial requirements were not detailed enough. And the actual work requires more time and effort than initially anticipated by your team. What should you do? So yes, you're dividing the project into phases and focusing on near-term work, but how this will solve the problem or your commitment that you have already done? So for example, if I'm a client and you are a vendor, so you have committed like you will be delivering this product in $100. However, now you're realizing it would cost $130. So what you would be doing? Would dividing the project into phases solve this problem? This gap between 100 and 130? Vivek?
No.
So yes, maybe we will be doing that, but it does not address the problem that is mentioned in the question. So this is, I'm saying again and again, all the options seem correct, but in different context. We need to see whether this option makes sense in the scenario which is mentioned in the question, right? So that is the right answer. So dividing the project into phases and focusing on near-term work first, yes, this is what we do in Agile. And as you mentioned, we deliver value, MVP, everything is correct. But this does not solve the problem with the question. So option D is not correct. Okay. Robin, you have chosen option A.
Yes, the project is going ahead on an inaccurate estimate. So we've identified that it's inaccurate, and we need to correct that. So we need to re-estimate and quote on the actual effort that's required, and go forward with a change request for that.
All right. Correct. So partially correct, not fully correct. So yes, we can re-estimate, but how we can quote an updated rate once we have already signed a contract? So we have agreed on something. We have signed a contract. So you have agreed with me, you would be delivering a product in $100. And after 2 months, you say, I have sent you an email. Could you please find the updated estimate? I will be charging you $150. So do you think it would work like that?
If the the requirements that the estimate was based on
Yeah.
were inaccurate,
Yeah.
so you want to correct that by doing an estimate on the correct requirements.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So see what's written in the question. It says, you realize that initial requirements were not detailed enough, and the actual work requires more time and effort than initially anticipated by your team. So it's your team's fault. It's not my fault. Your team has anticipated something incorrectly, right? So this should be addressed by you. Or if you want me to address something, discuss with me. Let's negotiate. Let's sit together and talk about it, right? So first we need to see what's the reason behind inaccurate estimate. Is it inaccurate or insufficient requirements at my end, or is it wrong anticipation by your team. So the very first thing is we need to evaluate reasons behind inaccurate estimate. And then we will be going for re-estimation or quoting a new price or modifying the contract or negotiating something different. So the very first thing is we need to do the evaluation. So evaluate reasons behind inaccurate estimate. That would lead us towards a solution. Like, okay, what we should do? Who will take the responsibility? Is it the client? Is it the vendor or team or somebody else? So let's read other options. Execute the project as per plan since in Agile requirements evolve over time. Yes, that is correct. However, the problem in the question is different. You have agreed on something. However, actual situations, a situation is something like you can't deliver according to your promise. So this does not address the problem. Yes, it is right, but it does not address the problem. Divide the project into phases we have already talked about. So D is not correct. C is not correct. A is not correct. B is the correct option. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, so relatively easier question, could be difficult as well. Okay, Dadela, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, I concentrated on solution going forward. So acceptance criteria, it's already in the project scope. Evaluate why the deliverables were accepted, yes, and how is it gonna help me right now? And basically, C and D are more or less the same thing. Check the quality assurance to see if they were followed. Maybe they were not. Nevertheless, at the end of a project, I want correct deliverables. So, and they are incorrect, right? They are defective, so they need to be fixed. Therefore, I have selected option B.
All right, thank you. So you're saying there is something wrong with deliverables, we need to fix them. And in order to fix, we can send the previous deliverables back to the vendor. All right, thank you. Jashri, you have chosen option D.
Yes, since the deliverable has already been zero first.
You're not audible. Your voice is not clear.
Okay. Is it audible now?
Slightly better, but still not clear.
Sure. Okay, maybe I will type my answer. That should be better.
Okay. All right, Lela, you have chosen option D.
So we have deliverables that were defective, and we already received the deliverables. So we have to check that, if the process of quality control, assurance, and process was followed. If it was, why we received these defective deliverables, why we accepted it, right?
So it means C should be the right answer.
Yeah, I mean, I was between C and D, but I think I don't know. I felt like we have to check if with the process were followed, right, or the quality, that why we accepted these deliverables, and then we would kind of contact the vendors, and then we would kind of, negotiate or come to a solution afterwards. But first, we have to find out why we accepted, these deliverables, defective deliverables.
Absolutely. So remember, whenever you approach a question, first of all, try to understand the situation. Try to evaluate, do analysis. And this is what we have been discussing again and again. Try to understand the situation, do the analysis, do the evaluation, and then jump to the conclusion or the solution. So agree on acceptance criteria with the vendor. So we're not sure, maybe the acceptance criteria is already in place, but we have not followed that. So we're not sure about it. So as Daniela mentioned, acceptance criteria is already part of the scope statement or whatever you are doing. We're not sure about it. So there is no indication in the question that says that something is wrong with the acceptance criteria. So agreeing on acceptance criteria and then not sticking to that could be a problem. So option A does not address the problem. Send the previous deliverables back to the vendor for correction. Yes, perfect. So it's a workaround, but it does not address the root cause. So we always look for addressing the root cause of the problem. As in the explanation of previous answer, the question you saw, we try to understand the root cause so that similar problems and issues could be avoided in the future. So yes, ultimately we will be sending the previous deliverable back if contract allows, but first we need to understand why it happened. Option C, evaluate why the previous deliverables were accepted. Yes, this is right, but this is just one part of the overall problem. So the problem could be in the processes. So first we need to see, do we have right QA QC processes? So when deliverable was executed, did we perform tests, right? Did we do the validation, right? Did we follow the process? On which basis, we didn't perform the right validation or testing? So C is just one part of it. So comprehensive action that you can take to see, to understand the root cause, is to see if processes are in place or not. If processes are not in place, then you need to address those. So that would resolve the problem permanently. So rather than looking for a temporary solution, we always look for permanent solution. So option B is a temporary solution. Option D is a permanent solution. Correct answer is option D. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Vivek, you have chosen option B.
Yes. So again, was trying to see like eliminating the options here. So option A, conducting audit for the performance appraisal. It's not going to help actually by auditing the actual performance of the team members. It will rather like demoralize the team. So it's not the correct option, I think. The option C, that review the similar trends in the other projects to see each and every project is different in nature. So following their guidelines or following their trends is not going to help. So this is not a correct option. And D is again use the management by objective to manage the team members is one-way process. We are not looking at the team's performance, or we are not considering their hard work. So the best option is to align the project KPIs with the team members KPIs. So which will get to the situation.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. Daniela, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, the reason is none of the others seem to be the right answer. So we have a problem with a project which is over budget and behind the schedule. So we don't know why. Maybe it is very big. Maybe the scope is too big, or maybe it was poorly planned. Nevertheless, the team members are working like crazy, overperforming. I didn't feel like option B would solve anything or give us a way forward to the project manager. Okay, you align it, and so what? Your project is still behind the schedule and over budget. So I felt like option D was better, because as a project manager, my purpose is to, well, deliver the project on schedule and not over budget. So have to understand what's happening with the team members. Therefore, I would manage the team members individually or as a group or something like that. I don't know if it makes sense, but that's what I felt. So it needs to be proactive for sure. I don't know if review similar trends. Okay, maybe it's normal, maybe it's not. Yeah, how is it gonna help me to deliver it on schedule, not on the budget, but on budget? So anyway, long story short, all the other A, B, and C didn't seem to resolve the issue at hand, which is a project which is not going well.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanations. The problem in this question is not that project is behind schedule or over budget. So if the question is like this, so for example, this, now the problem is project is behind schedule and over budget. So if question says the project is behind schedule and over budget, what should you do as the project manager? So it means the focus is on these two things. But in the statement, the problem is not this. The problem is discrepancy, difference. Project performance is behind targets. However, your team members are performing well. So this discrepancy is being highlighted in the question, right? So how would you handle that? What you would be doing that? So question is not about scheduling and budgeting. Okay. So management by objective is a different concept, right? Management by objective is a concept where you align organizational objectives with team members' objective. That is called management by objective. You define organizational objectives, you cascade them to the team level so that you have a kind of alignment. So it's almost similar to option B, align project KPIs with team KPIs. Okay, I'll be taking one more comment. Manmeet, you have chosen option A. You're on mute.
Sorry, my phone freeze. The I think option A. Okay, the reason the conducting an audit will definitely give me a reason that why we are having overperforming team members. The schedule is behind, budget is over. Audit will definitely give me a way to ensure that the particular product or services that whatever we're doing in the project is with the rules and standards that has to be. So that's why I picked option A.
Absolutely. So I'm emphasizing again and again analysis, evaluation, and understanding. So the very first thing is try to understand the situation. Try to understand the root cause. Try to understand the reasons behind the issue. So the problem here is there is a mismatch between team performance and project performance. There's a discrepancy. So the very first thing is you need to understand why so. What's wrong? Then you will be going towards aligning KPIs and other stuff. So rather than directly going for the solution, first we need to evaluate. First we need to understand. So audit would help you understand like if there is something wrong with the performance appraiser. For example, one of the indication could be team KPIs are not aligned with project KPIs. Then you will be going with option B. Another could be maybe there is an alignment, but sometime what we have seen is managers they want to motivate team members, and in order to motivate team members, they give some extra ratings. And this is a very typical problem in organizations. Like project or organization is not performing well, but team members they all are getting bonuses and high ratings. So if there is a mismatch, we try to understand like what's the reason. If there is a really a mismatch between KPIs, or it's an intentional thing done by the manager, right? So we will be conducting an audit to understand the process, like what's wrong, why there is a mismatch, and then we will be moving towards the right option or the solution. So correct answer is option A. All other options are incorrect. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right. Vivek, you have chosen option D.
Yes, so the project is following agile methodology again. So team is already aware about the agile practices, but the new hired manager is not aware. So team's first responsibility is to get themselves into the self organized model, like self-organized state, and like then the reduce the team managers dependency and impact of his if like inefficiency, and then we can follow the other steps like we mentioned in the step A, that convince the project sponsor and discuss the concerns so we can find out the right solution. But the first main objective of the team to be self-organized and do not impact the work.
All right, thank you. So the primary objective or one of the objectives is self-organization. So yes, okay. Thank you. Robin, do you agree with Vivek's explanation?
I thought that option D would help a lot, but it won't solve the problem. And that needs to be approached directly with the project manager. So that's why I chose option B.
Okay. So Why do you think D does not solve the problem here?
Because you would be excluding the project manager.
Absolutely. Correct.
Yeah.
So you're excluding project manager here. What you're doing, you're manifesting self-organization to minimize the project manager's impact on efficiency. So you are not addressing the problem here. And what's the problem? Problem is lack of awareness. So whenever there is lack of awareness, you try to train, you try to mentor, you try to, bridge the gap. Since it's the project manager, so for transparency, you will be directly discussing the issue with the project manager. So convening a meeting with project sponsor to discuss the concerns. We do not escalate. Escalation is not the very first step. So A is not the right option here. Meet with the team to find an alternative. Alternative to what? Means an alternative project manager, an alternative way, what? So it's ambiguous option. We're not sure about what sort of alternative you're talking about. Manifest self-organization to minimize. So it excludes project manager. So yes, you should do self-organization, but this does not address the problem in the question. So the problem in the question is not you're not self-organized. Problem in the question is that you have a person who is not aware of agile methodologies. So yes, you will be self-organizing, but what you will be doing with that lack of knowledge? So you're not addressing the problem here. Correct answer is discuss the problem with the person, with the project manager, and then based on that discussion, you'll come up with the solution or whatever. So you need to do, if you have a concern, go for direct communication. So direct communication is one of the mindsets that you need to use while answering PMI question. Have face-to-face conversation, have direct conversation. So correct answer is option B. All other options are incorrect. All right, so open communication provides an opportunity to collaboratively address the issue. Right, last question. All right. So, Daniela, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, option A means do nothing, which is not what we would do in this case. You escalate the concerns to the procurement department. Yeah, they may become aware of this, but the centralized procurement system dictates that projects are awarded to the lowest competitive. So not sure how this is gonna help in this case. Award the contract to the second lowest bidder. How do we know that the second lowest bidder is better? We may never have seen the guy or that vendor. So I have selected option B because I'm aware you believe that the lowest bidder for your project could not deliver the quality product. Very tricky question. So this is actually, you already know that, so in your statement, you basically say that you already know that the vendor cannot deliver a quality product based on past experience. Actually, I would still select option B. So knowing his issues, I'm gonna put a clause in the contract regarding the acceptance criteria to make sure that this time they're gonna do the right thing.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. So, okay. I'll take one more comment. So, Robin, do you agree with Daniela's explanation?
Not necessarily, with me having chosen option C.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, we've got procedures, agreed procurement processes and protocols in place. But in this case, we've got a possibility of employing somebody that's going to be a risk. So we need to put that forward to the procurement and quality department, so that they can make a proper assessment and go ahead from there.
All right. Thank you. So what's happening here? You are following a competitive bidding process. We have talked about bidding process in our course, right? If you recall, you develop document, you run the bidding process, and what's the last thing in the competitive bidding process? You sign a contract agreement. So if you look at option B, agree on product acceptance criteria and seek written commitment from the vendor, you're already doing that, right? If you're following a competitive bidding process, and if a bidder has submitted a bid or an offer or proposal, it means you are already documenting that. So this option, there is nothing new in this option. Do you understand, everybody? So first, there is nothing wrong with the acceptance criteria. Second, you're already documenting because you're following competitive bidding process. In competitive bidding process, you sign a contract document, and contract documents are written commitments from the vendor to deliver a quality product. That's what the procurement is. Whenever you buy something, vendor agrees to deliver quality product. So it's built in or part of the process, procurement process. So B is nothing new. It's part of the process. So B does not solve the problem. So organization has a centralized procurement system. What is centralized procurement system? Centralized procurement system is a system where organizations, they have a one single procurement department that is responsible to handle procurements of all projects. And project managers are there for coordination and collaboration purposes. That is called centralized procurement system. And there is another one that is called decentralized procurement system. So decentralized is when project managers, they are responsible to run their own procurements. Since it is a centralized procurement system, so you will be escalating your concerns with the procurement and quality department, because ultimately they are responsible to run the procurement process, not you, right? So correct answer is option C. All other options are incorrect. Follow the agreed procurement process and protocols. As Daniela mentioned, it is wrong. Doing nothing is not an answer here. Award the contract to the second lowest bidder to ensure both cost and quality criteria. So it doesn't make sense because you're violating your criteria here. Your criteria says projects are awarded to the lowest competitive bidder. However, you are awarding to the second lowest, so means you are violating your own criteria. You can't do that, right? So agree on product acceptance. This is the same thing, nothing new in that. So you will be escalating your concerns with the relevant department to see how they handle the situation. So correct answer is option C. All other options are incorrect. Let's read the explanation. All right, everybody. So we're done with our today's lesson. This question answer session, it's really important because the quality of question is really, really good. So if I compare these questions with real exams, so they are almost 99%, or I would say 100%, not same, but similar to the real exam. So you'll see similar question in the exam. So whatever your score is in this mock exam, you can expect similar performance in real exam. So just write your score in the chat window directly to me, whatever your score is in today's topic. 40%, 50%, 30%, 30% is too low, 50% is okay, 80% is amazing, none is, okay. I have mentioned this again and again. If you are solely relying on these Q&A session, you won't be able to pass the exam. Because, for example, I want to add 100 questions in one QA session, but we don't have enough time to solve 100 questions. So for 10 questions, we spend almost 1 hour, right? So please follow the process. All the students who are passing the exam, they're just following the process. They take the course attentively, they take notes, they save all the data and documents, whatever I share. Then they go through the content. 15 days for content and 15 days for mock exam. It's a simple process. Take the course, go through the content, either in the form of notes, in the form of PowerPoints, in the form of book, whatever you're comfortable with, and then write or solve mock exams. If you solve my mock exams and you get 70% of marks in those mock exams, then you are good to go. So this is a simple process that you need to follow. Some of you could not attend the course complete. So I'm going to have PMP course starting from 15th of June. You can join that course. So same, it's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, EST, to 5 p.m. EST on Saturday, Sunday, 15th and 16th, and then Saturday, Sunday, 22 and 23. So if you lack conceptual clarity, you can attend the course so that you have that clarity and then you can build on that, right? Also, please, you can share this with your friends and colleagues, right? You might have received, my team might have already shared with you. So anyone who is interested in joining, they can join, right? So it's a really good course, almost similar course that we already had, but the fee is relatively much lower as compared to for other courses. So the fee for this course is just $349. So you can share this with your friends. All right, since developing these questions take a lot of time, that's why sometimes we have to skip it. I'm not sure we will be having a mock a Q&A session tomorrow, but I'll try my best. We are able to, if we are able to develop the question, then definitely we'll have tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll see you on Wednesday. All right, everybody, take good care of yourself. I'll see you tomorrow or on Wednesday with another interesting lesson. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.